Hello, everybody.
Hello, hello. Sacred
Hey,
Sounds of
Jen.
Coffee again
Yeah.
with
Well,
Lucy.
well, with Lucy, who's having, we were just talking allergies. Oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed with allergies, and so is Lucy, and so is Jen. A lot of allergy struggling this fall. It's crazy. I don't know.
She has a virus in her eyes also that's maybe a chronic thing she'll have for the rest of her life. She's about 15 now. She's up
Oh,
there.
so
But
welcome,
you've had it
everybody.
before. It's something new. It's
Yeah.
always something new, isn't it?
Always something new. I think that's part of what we're talking about today. But welcome, Sacred Sounds. I know I'm doing my fall quite early, but I can't help it. Fall and Halloween are my favorite favorites. So, welcome, everybody.
Hey, Roberta.
Hope everybody got a cup of something.
I got a cup of hot and a cup of cold.
Oh, me too. That's so funny. I get my ice water and then I get my coffee. Always
Just in
hand in
case I
hand.
run out of the hot.
Yeah. So, welcome everybody. It's awesome. Oh, there we go. Hi, Gina. Hello, Carolyn. Nice. Welcome everybody today. So, we are talking stumbling into grace in life and just how to kind of stay in that place of grace as much as we can, how it kind of can sneak up on you pretty suddenly, just in terms of life purpose, in terms of, places you didn't expect it that really change your life, but it's tricky.
But
And I
it's
think,
it's interesting. We came up with this title from basically my favorite Emmylou Harris album, which is called "Stumbling into Grace," and she has a song "Stumbling into Grace," and it's my
yes.
favorite. It's one of her later albums, but I don't know why it just resonates with me. I love it. I love her older work too, but I love that album. I play it a lot. Um, but I
Ooh,
think a lot of us stumble into grace. We kind of fall into it sometimes. We don't even
yes.
realize sometimes that we're falling into it.
Right. No, for sure. And I think that's a huge piece. Like when I was thinking about that, like when do I feel a real sense of grace in my life? What times in my life have I really either been down or been doing, way too busy? And that little, that either big or little sense of grace just falls over you. Like, what was it? How did I respond to it? And I think you really have to be open. I think with all that's going on and all the crazy and everything, we just do this all the time. Get away from me, and so you can't identify grace and participate and feel it and let it come into your life if we're in this state of kind of blocking and fear and all the things we've kind of created for ourselves in the last handful of years. I think remaining open is challenging, but I think that's how every time I thought, oh my God, just this wave of grace just came into my life unexpectedly. You have to be open, you
It
know.
it often we don't recognize it until we're going through something difficult, and then we stumble into grace. But I think for me, it starts with hope, and hope brings faith or knowing. To me, faith is the same thing as knowing, just knowing, when things are going to get better, when things are going to improve, and then the grace to go through it. But hope is hard to find sometimes. It's hard to
Yes.
get to that place of hope. It's like, whether you're laid off from work or you got a relationship that's not working out or whatever, it's hard to find hope sometimes.
Yes.
Um, Having health issues, whatever it is. And I know we talk about all the time, fake it till you make it. And part of that faking it gets you to that place where if you repeat things often enough, if you're having financial difficulties and you repeat often enough, I am financially abundant, you get to a place of hope. And then you get to a place of faith or knowing, that things are going to turn around to manifest that. Um, but faking it till you make it, I find it works. But when I can't seem to find that little bit of hope to hang on to, if I just keep saying it as if it's already here, I can turn that around. I can find that hope again.
Yes,
I
yeah,
feel like it's hard to find grace without a little bit of hope and a little bit of faith.
absolutely. And I think when we get in that place of fear, those are the things that kind of go out the window. We don't, we just lose our footing with that, and there's so much fear. So I think, yes, be in that, that hope is being open to something
Fear,
new.
regret, anger, resentment, any of those energies. I mean, it's all fear based, right? Uh,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can remember one time I was laid off from a job and I was so pissed off because I had just done this huge overseas trip working on new product for the next year. And when I worked in the corporate world in retail, I was like, why did they let me go on this trip and spend all that money? If they're laying off the 3,000 people they laid off in one day. I was
Wow.
like, okay, and then I got really angry when I found out that they gave a multi-million dollar bonus to our CEO.
Mm.
So it's like it's hard to find hope when you're angry. It's like
Yes.
the,
Yes.
the social injustices and things, and
Yes.
taking away that security, that feeling of being able to keep that roof over your head and food on your table.
Yep. Yes. And I think, that is such a speedy thing and such a constant like cycle in our lives, and particularly in America. you know we're like the crazy train has left the station. We run from morning till night, jobs and kids and soccer and instrument practice, and people just, we get in this cycle of run, 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 run. You don't even think about the world around you. And I think the grace is around you. It settles over you like a blanket, like you have
Yeah,
to be still. And
yeah.
I try to tell myself, like, how much time do I spend aggravated every day? And how much time do I spend in a state of grace or acceptance or peace or stillness? Like, to try to adjust those numbers a little bit and get things,
Acceptance is a big thing, I think. Surrender, acceptance,
yes.
surrender. We can't always get to that place of gratitude, but if we can get to that place of acceptance and surrender, it's like, okay, this happened.
Right.
I, I've got to work through this. Surrender to the process.
Yes. Yes. 100%. And I think, I try to even set it in my days, like scheduled. Like when I take the dog out in the morning, I put
Mhm.
my feet on that I know I've probably said this before, but I put my feet on that concrete and I am thankful. Like, you just are still, you stop, you look at, oh, thank you for the rain, thank you for the snow, thank you for this beautiful sunshine this morning, which was, this morning was beautiful sun. And just take that second, and you just feel the grace come over you, but that's like 1 second out of a crazy day, and by the time you get home you're like, but
Yeah,
I think to schedule it in so it comes back and we spend more time in awe and acceptance and in that gracious space than we do running like crazy people.
oh,
It takes
Rosie's got her
time.
squeaker toy out.
Yeah, we got a squeaker here. She is in a constant, well, no, she's not in a constant state of grace. When she is squeaking her apple, she is in a state of grace. When she's chasing a squirrel, she's very upset. We've got a lot, I just moved, and there's a lot of wildlife, which for me, like moving, it's almost like moving into a place of grace for me. This place was not supposed to happen, and I shouldn't say that because everything is meant to happen as it should, but the beauty around us. I have a little pond out back. I have just, and there's all kinds of wildlife. So little Miss Rose is like out of her mind investigating all the new things. So
uh,
It's really funny. So she's a character.
we forget we're here to have a human experience and to learn from all of our experiences. And I think, you know, wisdom comes through experiencing, whether, we want to label it good or bad. There is no right or wrong. It's always what did we learn from it? But for wisdom comes from experience. That's why we look up to our elders, right? They've experienced more. And then the growth
One
comes
would
from
think.
learning.
One would think.
When we look at the experience, when we surrender and accept and grow, learn from it and grow, it's like, okay, that didn't work for me. Let me try something else. But everyone learns at their own pace, and every lesson kind of you learn it at a different pace.
Yes.
Nothing's ever the same. So whether you're going through something like grief or health issue or job issues or relationship issue, whatever it is, um, we all learn at different paces and different levels. It's sometimes we got to repeat things over and over to realize, okay, that's not working for me. Why do I keep doing that?
100%. Absolutely.
We've learned when we finally realize, okay, that I'm beating a dead horse here. I keep doing the same thing
Right.
over and over and getting the same result. What do I need to change in me? How can I change my perspective?
Absolutely.
And I think that's why faking it till you make it helps, because it helps you start to get a different perspective, even if you're play acting a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Bring the inner child out, play act a little bit, and eventually you get to that place where you have that hope and you have that knowing, that faith
And it
that
keeps you in that different mindset of the expectation as opposed to in the grief and in the anger. And then, it at least pulls you out of where you are so you can get your footing into into something else.
I remember that job layoff, that one in particular, that really pissed me off. I had to just grab a pillow and scream into it. I had to release some anger. I just had to release it. It's like, oh my God. And then I grieved for what happened. When you lose a job, you grieve, not seeing the people that were your friends at work, your coworkers. You grieve for the loss of the income or whatever.
Right.
You grieve for the loss, and then gradually it's like, okay, now I got to get in action. I got to look for another
Right.
job. I got to do this. I got to do that. And finding
Yes.
your grace through the process.
Yes. And I think, staying curious into that new one thing I did notice about like kind of looking at, grace and how do we conquer that fear and stay in another state that's healthier and more open and I came across a fun quote about the purpose of curiosity. So staying in a state of not only openness but curiousness about the world, about what do I want next? What could I explore? What could bring something new to me? I'm stuck in this little box looking very angrily at something that's past. What do I do? So it
that,
says,
that curiosity will keep you from repeating the same thing over and over and getting the same result too. If
right.
you get curious about, well,
Yes.
what if I tried this? you
And
know,
just being inspired by little
it,
things. Like my dad was over here the other day and he's like, you have so much. Like I was showing him, I have a little teeny piece of an asteroid from South America, like a tiny little chunk that I got in a rock shop that I was out of town somewhere and got into a conversation with the guy. But I mean, this thing has been traveling through space for over 5 billion years or whatever, and here it is. Like it crashed into the Earth. I'm like, that's fascinating. He's like, you have so much stuff. Like how does this because I'm always like collecting and researching and it might just be something this big but it's exciting and I'm curious and boy that gets you through like a million miles of bad road, like just to stay curious about all kinds of things. But this quote was, curiosity will conquer fear even more than bravery will. So staying open, staying curious, staying, I mean, that really, we stay inspired that way, and that's a whole different feeling than you know
I love that, because
yeah.
curiosity over courage. That
Yes.
just getting
Yes.
curious about something, and looking at something new. And sometimes things that happen, losing a job was to line me up to push me somewhere else. The
Absolutely.
universe trying to push me, like, no, you need to be going in this direction,
Right.
and getting into eventually reading full time, right? So
Yes.
sometimes those things happen to push you in that direction to get you back on your path.
Absolutely. And that's the grace. I feel like
Yeah.
when I look back and I see what spirit did to move me or make me make a hard left that I didn't want or didn't think I wanted, that's the grace. And when I look back, I get the goose shivers about it. That's grace to me. That's a
That
huge
to
chunk of
me
grace.
too. It's like a lot of times I'll look back on how I worked through a process, anger, grief, all those things, and then getting motivated in a different direction, and um,
Yes.
finding my way through it and landing on my feet again. I say landing like a cat, right? Always
Right.
landing on feet.
They teach
Um,
us.
yeah, it's landing like a cat back on my feet, and then I look back at it and I'm like, oh wow, it wasn't as hard as I initially thought it was going to be. The anger came because I thought, okay, this is going to be difficult, as well
Right.
as resentment, anger.
Yeah.
Um,
And I
but
wonder how much
those are
of
human emotions, and a lot of times, the most difficult experiences or the biggest challenges or the most difficult people are we learn the most from. They're here either to
absolutely.
teach us, or in a lot of cases, I think we're to teach them. The difficult people, a lot of times, if they weren't narcissists and open to it, could learn from us to
Yes.
be different, to not be difficult people.
Yes.
So a lot of times, they're put in our paths so that we can teach them and show them by example. Now, when they choose not to learn, we can detach from them and say, okay, go your merry way. I don't have to be a part of your journey. You don't
Right.
get it.
Right. But even those little pieces where you think you've done nothing, you've done something. I always find that true for both of us. Even when I think I got nothing out of that. No, it's never true. There's always one little something that you didn't know. It's so complex. The
Yeah.
universe is so complex. But yeah, I think I think, being in anger, fear, locked in situations with people, so much of that is ego too.
Hmm.
Kind of an ego, like get out of your ego, because grace is not in ego. Grace is not in
And
fear.
trying to control something that you can't control.
Right. Yeah, for sure. So I think
Yeah,
that's
the only thing you can control is how you react.
right.
So if you can find that grace to take a deep breath,
Yes,
this too shall pass, but find some way to breathe through it a little bit,
absolutely.
and know that, okay, I'm at least in control of myself. I might have screamed into a pillow 5 minutes ago, but now, okay,
Yes,
I'm
it's
getting in
purpose.
control of myself. I'm finding my grace.
Yes,
But I'm
100%.
so like you. Like I look back on it and I get the tingles when I realize how the grace eased in and helped the process along.
Yeah,
And in some of the most difficult situations, and it's like, wow, um, I didn't realize sometimes I did to stop and think about other people, friends or family that help lift you up
right.
sometimes when you're down, or
Yes.
people that
Or
we lift
even
up when they're
bosses
down,
at times. Yeah.
that there's grace in that.
Yes,
There's a
100%.
sweetness to life.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's really funny. I love Stevie Ray Vaughan, the blues guitarist that passed away in the 90s. Um, in a helicopter crash, and I was listening to some of his music on YouTube the other day, and it played a video that was from his final performance
Oh,
in Wisconsin before he got on the helicopter and crashed and passed away. And he had gotten clean and sober. He was drug free. He was alcohol free. He was playing at his highest, at his
wow.
best.
And
He
then off
was
he went.
so incredible, and it was like it was a bad video. That it wasn't a good quality. It wasn't like people have had camera phones back then, right?
Right.
Um, so it wasn't the best quality, but you could still hear like he's at his peak performance. He is just wailing and nailing it. And I thought, wow, I mean, it just hit me. It just like struck me. He had no idea he was going to pass away within a couple hours. No idea. Uh, If you only had a few hours to live, what
Yeah.
would you do to make life just a little sweeter? To play a little song better, or what would you do if you
Right.
knew you only had a short time left? What would you do? So I started thinking about that, and it was like kind of getting my butt in gear a little bit. It was like, wow, I need to think about that because there's some other things that I've kind of put off that I want to work on, and
Yep.
it's like, yeah, you never
Yep.
know what your time is, right? So
Nope. Right. It's beautiful. Yeah, I agree
drive,
completely.
drive
That's
safe, Beth Cat.
Bye, Beth. No, we'll be hearing us in the car. I love that. I love that I could do my chats in the car or my lives, everything in the car now. YouTube in the car. I
Yeah.
have Apple Play. It's like astounding to me. It's so being an older person that didn't grow up with this. My Apple Play is really, really cool. You
I
take
think
everybody
one
with
thing
you.
that gets me out of um, my frustrations or anger or resentment or anything is I stop and I think about other people and things they've gone through.
Yes.
And it's like, I'm not, there were 3,000 people that were laid off when I wasn't the only one going through that, right? Um, Stopping and thinking about what it was doing to other people and realizing, you know, we're getting out of the victimhood, like poor
Yes.
me, why is this always happening to me, or why am I going through this and everything, but realizing it happens every day. People
Absolutely. And
lose a loved one, or
turning it around.
people
And
lose a job, or people have a argument with somebody that's a narcissist. It's like
right.
it happens every day. It's not just us, but that's part of the human experience.
It is.
And I find it interesting as a medium. I find it interesting. People are like, "Oh, I've had enough in this lifetime. I'm not
Mm.
coming back. I'm not coming back." And then you get on the other side and you do your life review and you see the sweetness of life and you
Yeah.
see all the love. And everybody's like, "Sign me up. I want to reincarnate again. I want to do it again."
Right.
So we may not always see it while we're here and going through it, but we get on the other side, and I think that's another thing that we go through. We feel that sweetness of life. So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I want to take some time to feel it here. I don't want to have to wait
Right.
till I'm on the other side. I want to take
100%.
time to align with that and feel that and recognize that sweetness here a little bit more, because I take so much for granted. I just
Right.
don't stop
Yes.
and pay attention.
Yes. 100%. And I have been on that vibe all week. Like, I am so grateful. Like, I need to quit the worry, quit the stress, quit the anger stuff with things that don't matter, and just be in that place. So I pulled a couple things that are very gracious, just make me feel grace when I look at them. So this is a stone that is a heart, that is just a river stone that I came across, and I always leave it, so when I see that, and it's the most simple thing in the world,
It's
but I
beautiful.
just, I just
It
think,
almost looks like it has a heart within a heart, doesn't it?
yes, it
Or
does. If
like
you can
it's
see
the
it, I know
ripple effect heart.
it's hard to get the camera to really pick it up, but yes, it's a heart within a heart, and it's just so when I see that, and it's just this old piece of stone, like but it's so. I mean, nature does that for us. So that's just a little barnacle. Ooh, gosh, why do I get so disoriented? Little sea barnacle, and then I have a little sand dollar. Ooh,
Oh, I
that's
love
hard to
sand
tell.
dollars.
Let me see if I could put it against my black shirt. Eh. But just little things that I just kind of leave lay around my house, and when I'm like, then I catch something in my eye, and I'm like, just And nature gives us such grace.
You
Oh,
gotta you gotta bring out that inner child every now and then, and
yes,
get the wonder of the world. Think about when you're a child walking on the beach, everything is wondrous, right?
yes. And seeing that beauty, yes. Oh my God. And staying in a place, because how many times do we like storm down a, sometimes when I go for a walk, I'll be so in my head and I'm like, you're in a gorgeous forest. Like, what
Yeah.
is the matter with, why are you talking? Why are you, just walk and breathe and, put your hands on the trees and share energy and,
Can
you
you
know,
remember as a child, just like I can remember sitting in the dirt and just watching a bug,
yes,
like for
vividly,
a long time, like just watching
vividly.
it, and watching ants as a team working together to get things
Yes,
back to the ant hill, and as a child just sitting there and wondering, and it's like, wow, it's teaching me about teamwork as a child, but I didn't
yes,
I was just wondrous, watching how
yes.
they could lift things that were bigger than them.
Yes, I mean, it's so true. And, I think I remember vividly laying in the grass, the feel of the grass, staring at the clouds, making the shapes, the animals out of the clouds, like forever. And I would be getting screamed at, practice the piano or blah, 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 that your homework's not done. I could not pull myself away. I was like the most spacey kid, but I just was in a constant, that state of grace almost. Like I was so calm and at peace, and things went so slowly. And I always, at one point, I tried to remember, like, when did things speed up so fast? I remember at some point in my 20s being like, I remember things slow and then things fast. Like, how does that happen? And now we, of course, are so, we know that that's how it goes. But to try to bring yourself into the mindset of that little girl and say, I'm just, what I do? I've figured it out once. I go in a pool near my house, and when I lay and put my ears under the water and just stare at the sky and just dead man float, like it takes me
Yeah,
back. That's the only thing that will take me back to that place because you
laying
can't
and
hear
looking at
anybody.
the
Yes,
shapes in the clouds and that kind of
yes,
thing.
yes,
And
and
I always had an affinity as a child for older people,
mhm,
and would always sit at their feet and everything. And I always found something interesting about their faces, the lines in their faces, and um, I would sit and listen to them and their
yes,
wisdom that they would impart, and things about the past. Talking about
yes.
their past and what they went through. But I was always intrigued by the lines on the face. I don't know,
Mm,
in the hands, as the hands would start to gnarl up with age and things.
right.
And I've always had an affinity towards watching hands, whether young or old. But there's so much wisdom I see in older gnarled hands. I don't know what that is.
Wow, that's
Like they have
awesome.
worked with those hands. They've done things with those hands that's gotten them into that shape as they've gotten older. And
Wow.
but I can remember, like under 10, I would constantly be sitting
Yeah.
by the older people in the
Yeah,
room.
I gravitated because they talked slower and they were calmer and they were kind. And, the people that were around me, like aunts, I remember my aunts, great aunts, like grandmother's sisters kind of aunts, and different people that were just slow speaking and kind. And you could kind of stay in that happy zone still, instead of
Yeah.
get your blah, 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 with parents have a whole different role, but, I remember having some aunts that I absolutely adored.
Now,
Absolutely.
as I get older, I understand why those hands age and why we get the lines on our
Yes, but it
faces, right?
wasn't the important part.
It's like
Yeah.
earn those, right? Earn the gray
Yes.
hair, so to speak.
Right. Yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
but it's always like seeing, like as a child, seeing a picture of like my great aunt who was 98 when she passed, seeing a picture of her that she showed me when she was about 95, of her as a young girl, and born in like 1900,
Right.
1901,
Right.
and seeing her young, and it's like, wow, how did she get from that young girl to
Right.
this
And
95-year-old,
what happened? What, that life. I mean,
Yeah.
I
And
have
then
been
the
on a
stories would come out, and she'd start telling me
yes.
stories, and some of them were
Oh,
hysterical.
yes. And I had a lot of just kind of, I don't know, disconnectedness, hardship, a lot of alcoholism in the family on my mother's side. So I lost a lot of those people very young. So I have been recently, like, I think, in search for that story and that grace and that, just identity kind of thing. Been going back to the library and working in what do they have for free? I think the genealogy.com or ancestry.com, and just looking, you can pull up because so many people put their photos in. I saw an aunt that I dearly loved, and she was like a little girl, and it was like from 1908 or something. And I'm like, oh my God. Like I had never, it's just so fascinating. And just the connection, I think, enhances the sense of grace, the sense of hope, because there's so many of us, generation, that have experienced so
I
much.
think there's something about sharing stories of, as
Yes,
you get older, of what you went through, you know, those that went through the Great Depression and
yes,
days of child labor and all those things. And, my
absolutely.
grandfather, he worked in a rock quarry when he was 9 years old.
Yep,
Hearing those kind of stories and what they went through, learning from them, so that we don't repeat things like that, but learning from them and then seeing them in their grace in their older age and reflecting back
yes,
on everything. um there We need to share those stories. We
absolutely.
need to share that history, so to speak,
Yes, and I think it creates that grand space, that grand view, larger view that,
to see the sweeter side of life, that he
yes,
could start out as a kid 9 years old working in a rock quarry
right,
and then have his own family and go through things, with them, and going into his old age and health issues and everything. But everything, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, as they say.
right. They,
Everything
they said that
brought
a
him
lot.
through
I don't
the
know.
grief.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a grandfather and his twin brother that were like maybe 8 years old, and they were sent into a some sort of a where they had natural gas, and there were like tunnels under the ground, and they sent the two of them in because they were small enough to like
Mhm.
make sure, and it could have blown up, it could have, like it was not at all safe, it was so, but they
Yeah,
just are like, get in there, and he's like, I remember coming out, I remember becoming conscious again, like he passed out, like it was just very, kids were, you know bred to run farms and do hard things and fit in small holes, and when
but
they were young it was a whole different.
I mean, it's amazing that our world keeps progressing as
Yeah.
it does, because we put each other through so many things.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's a reminder that, you know our problems that we have are very similar to the problems they had in their generation, just different technology, right?
True.
But our problems are basically similar.
Yes.
A mother losing a child, or a father losing a job and having to support his family or whatever. It's all similar
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Yes. We have done this for a long time, and I think,
it's a
part,
reminder. Yes, I can get through this too. Look at the older
yes.
generation that made it through this.
Yes. And I think the grace for others, like when I'm ready to complain, how about if I turn around and look that there's a lot of people that I work with making less money than me? I mean, maybe they need a round of groceries. Maybe I can bring lunch for people. Maybe I can, it's not about me like that,
Mhm.
whole thing of just looking at somebody else, kind of namaste, like I see your light. I see
I
you.
see you today. I see you.
Yeah, I see
I'm
you.
acknowledging you, and
That's
just
grace.
hello. How are you? That's grace.
Yeah.
That's
So I think,
definitely.
yeah, that's beautiful. I just,
But
yeah, it's hard.
things like that, getting in touch with someone you haven't talked to in a while that may be going through something, lift them up a little bit.
yes,
When we lift others, we lift ourselves, we lift our own energy too. So,
Yes, absolutely. Oh, so I have a, if we want, I have, because I can't help it, I have a Mary Oliver poem.
I was going to say, you have a Mary Oliver poem. I didn't have time to look, but it's like maybe Gail will look.
I
we love,
can't
we
help
love
it.
Mary Oliver on Sacred Sounds of Coffee. She's a wonderful poet.
Yes, and I'm gonna try to put in some links this week. Like I'll link the album, Emmylou Harris album, if you want to go look at it, buy it, whatever. I'll link that, maybe Amazon, and then I'll link the Mary Oliver. I'll link a couple other like grace points. We like, just, sharing like ideas of grace, or you know um, things that have been inspiring, I guess. So, but I did, yeah, I came up. So this is The Pond by Mary Oliver.
Oh, very appropriate with the pond in your backyard. Yeah.
Yes. And the fall, and she's just amazing. And okay, so it starts about in August, but we just made the changeover, so I think we're okay. August of another summer, and once again I am drinking the sun, and the lilies again are spread across the water. I know what they want is to touch each other. I have not been here for many years, during which time I kept living my life. Like the heron who can only croak, and wishes he could sing, I wish I could sing. A little thanks from every throat would be appropriate. This is how it has been, and this is how it is. All my life, I have been able to feel happiness, except whatever was not happiness. All my life, I have been able to feel happiness, except whatever was not happiness, which I also remember. Each of us wears a shadow, but just now it is summer again, and I am watching the lilies bow to each other, then slide on the wind, and the tug of desire, close, close to one another. Soon now I'll turn and start for home, and who knows, maybe I'll be singing.
I love that. That is just perfect. What book is that from? May I
The
ask?
Pond, and I think that was The Pond. I think the
The
whole
book is
series
called
of
The
poems
Pond.
was called The Pond. Yeah, but I'll link it.
That is just
She
perfect.
is, yeah,
She's amazing. She just puts into words everything that you feel and you think. I
yes.
love that.
And I think what we do here, like I keep trying to find other poets, but I'm like, she brings the grace and the sacred and the nature in, and that's kind of what we're doing here, which, kind of all our themes kind of touch that
I
on some point.
I read a lot of poetry and I write poetry. I love poetry,
Love that.
but I've explored other poets, and I keep going back to her because she puts it so beautifully, so simply, very
Yeah.
spiritual, very connected, to the earth and to our experiences here on earth.
Yes.
She's awesome.
Yes. She is a gift, a true gift. All right.
Well, I would definitely have to read that again because that was beautiful.
Yes.
Wow. Well, are we ready for
I
a
think
little
we are
meditation?
ready. I'm going to get myself. Let me see. We are ready. I'm going to mute myself, guys. So just carry on, Jen. I'm going to get organized and mute myself out so I can change the mic over and move the table.
It'll probably be a little bit shorter meditation. But we always start with a little candle lighting. If you'd like to light a candle with me, feel free. I always, when I light candles, I like to light tea lights because I like to let them burn all the way down and don't like to blow them out. So whenever I'm manifesting or whenever I'm doing a the candle lighting and the sacred sounds of copies, I always let them burn all the way down. So tea lights, get the ones that burn like an hour and a half. That way, if you have to get out and do things later in the day, you don't have to worry about a candle catching your house on fire. I work very closely with the four archangels I call out. If you have other archangels or guides that you have an affinity towards, feel free to add their name in, as I do this. Archangel Raphael, Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, Archangel Ariel. We surrender to your mercy, compassion, and healing. We thank you for the wisdom we have gained from all of our life's experiences. We thank you for those friends and family who have lifted us up during our lowest times. We thank you for those friends and family that we can lift when they are having a low time. We thank you for guiding us through hope and faith or knowing into grace. We thank you for showing us as we reflect back on experiences, back on what we have learned, back on the wisdom we have gained, back on the growth that we have accomplished. We thank you for blessing us with the sweetness life shares. We thank you for our spiritual support from our guides and angels that guide us gently into grace. Kiwi's meditating with us today. I had to grab him before he got on the candle.
Oh my goodness. Yay.
That was beautiful. Thank you,
Ooh,
Gail.
yes. It's nice to be in a space where I have room for everything.
So, October Sacred Sounds of Coffee, I will be traveling in Portland for my seminar. So, we won't be having the October one unless you want to have it solo or have a guest on with you. November will be back, first Friday in November. We'll be back on my channel. We've been talking about maybe changing to a weekend night, like Friday or Saturday night, because so many people are working during the week. But I don't know. We'll see. We're playing around with that idea so that we can have more people in the chat room when we're doing these. It's just hard to drink coffee at night sometimes
Yeah.
and then go to bed.
Right. But yeah, let anybody know what you think because I know, yeah, days can be
For now, we'll
challenging.
keep it on Friday mornings, 10
Yep.
Central, 11 Eastern. Uh,
Yes.
but thank you all for joining us.
Yes. Thank you. It's what a wonderful day. These are the best.
If you're needing to get in the moment, just take a nice cleansing breath. I like to breathe in pure white light through my nose and exhale through my mouth negative gray energy. I use that visualization and just do 2 or 3 cleansing breaths and let it go and just get in the moment.
Yes.
Feel the sweetness of life.
Yes. And join Jen in Portland if you're not signed up. It is absolutely
Oh,
amazing. Oh my God.
yeah,
It's
it's already cut off. They can't sign up
oh
now.
yay. Okay. Hooray.
Yeah,
It's okay. There'll be more where that came from.
that's right. One of the classes, I switched it to a smaller room because it's it didn't sell out, but it's okay because I switched it to a smaller room.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have a lot more time to work with people in that class.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. We will be back in November unless I do something crazy, at which point I'll tell you. But yeah, thank you for being here. And everybody have a gracious, beautiful day.
Enjoy your autumn.
Yes. Take care.